So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Tracey Cleminson, who's owner at Arctic Bee. So, Tracey, thank you for spending your time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Arctic Bee, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. So, Arctic Bees Digital Marketing Agency, we are based in Leeds near the city centre, and we do everything from web design to social media marketing, email marketing. We like to do a digital omni-channel approach where we work on business strategy, branding and design for that business, and then work on whatever their goal is. So, for some businesses, the obvious start would be brand awareness, developing brand awareness, and then moving on to lead generation. But we're really about doing the whole piece to support that business to get them to where they need to be.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, what would make a perfect client for you? What are the sort of people that you love to work with? If you've got any idea, any examples?
Yeah, we love working with aspirational clients. We like working with small businesses. Ideally, I mean, we work with a whole spectrum of people, really, from sole traders and freelancers through to we support a national franchise with their social media, and we've got some international clients as well. But our ideal client would be a small business that's got the aspiration to grow.
Brilliant.
So maybe a small manufacturing team in Yorkshire,
Yep.
or restaurants as well. We love working with restaurants. It could get a bit more creative with food, and obviously
Yes.
we like sampling it as well.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Oh, that's great. No, it's a good idea. And funny enough, we do too. I love working with businesses that have plans for high growth and fast growth because they come that fast growth comes with its own different set of challenges. It all
Yeah.
sounds great, but it can be challenging too. Brilliant. Well, Tracy, if you'd be kind of to tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, why this particular one, and why Arctic Bee.
Sure. Well, I'll start with my background. I actually have a career history in education. So I was a mature student. I've got four children, by the way. They're all grown up now, doing
Brilliant.
their own thing. And I became a secondary school teacher. And part of that led me into working in prisons. And I went to work in a secure training centre. Now, I don't know if you've seen adolescents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Legal
So
go. Yeah.
yeah, so the young lads in a secure training centre, and I was actually head of education of one of those secure training centres, and I was a duty governor. So I was responsible for running that centre,
Right.
on with the rest of the management team, and that was really challenging, really rewarding. And I then went on to run an alternative provision. But I actually, before that, I should say I spent 5 years working in prisons, in prison education,
Right.
and helping offenders get back into work. I set the first scaffolding training centre up in the UK prison. So I've had a really interesting career history.
Brilliant.
But going back to my university days, I was national president of the Mature Student Union. It was a national organisation that supported not only mature students but students for children, which obviously was my situation. And they didn't have a website. So I asked a friend of mine at the time, could you build one for me? And he said, nope, I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. So that was the first website I built.
Right.
And during my career history, I continued to keep a little portfolio of websites, just really for personal interest and to keep my skills up to date. Because obviously things have changed a lot since then. I mean, we're going back to 1999, and the era of very early, I think I was using Net Objects Fusion or something like that, then very basic package. And
Yep.
obviously now we're much more into CSS and content management systems and AI. And so things
Yep.
have changed so much. But it has been interesting seeing those changes and just keeping that small portfolio of clients going up until the
Yep.
point I created my business. Yeah.
Goodness. Um,
Yeah.
Fascinating. What a fascinating background. And so, I mean, when growing up, is this the sort of thing that you foresaw for yourself, or did you have different plans at that point?
Well, the thing is, I came into this alternative provision, and what happened was, so I suppose this really relates to Arctic Bee, and I'll come on to the name in a minute, but um, lockdown was a really difficult time for a lot of people I know. But just before lockdown, I had a mental health breakdown. So I had previously been in a violent relationship, and that relationship ended in 2013. Um, to say it was violent, I won't go into the details, but he got a 5 year prison sentence.
Goodness.
So that will give you an idea of the level. And I still
Yeah.
have physical injuries from that attack.
Right.
So yeah, I consider myself very lucky to be alive. Um, I was working in prisons at that point, believe it or not. And I came out of that relationship and stayed in education for some time. Then, when I took on the role as head of alternative provision, I there was a fight at school, and I was pushed slightly out of the way, and I broke my foot.
Oh,
Now
goodness.
that was quite a few years on, but the result of that, along with a combination of other factors, meant that I started to have flashbacks to that, previous
Yes.
relationship. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but I felt myself really spiraling downhill. And it was October 2019.
Right.
I, as I say, I was running the alternative provision. I remember it was a Sunday evening, and I just thought, I can't go to work tomorrow. I can't do this anymore. And I ended up in hospital having taken quite a serious overdose.
Goodness.
Yeah. And
Goodness.
it's funny because when you think about my career history, I've been really top of my career and outwardly very strong.
Yep.
The
Yep.
secure training centre required a lot of strength, a lot of resilience. At work, I was on point.
Yep.
Behind closed doors, I was in a violent relationship. And then with the alternative provision, at work, I was, strong.
Yep.
Um, but behind the scenes, I was actually crumbling. And it culminated in me ended up in hospital, as I say. So that was October 2019, and then I had about 6 months of very serious depression. So I could barely get out of bed.
Goodness.
Like I remember going to the doctor and the doctor saying, "Wow, you got changed." And I'm like, 10 days. In 10 days, I changed the cardigan. That's how ill I was. I was really, really ill, and I think that was the a mixture of all that kind of stress building up over those years that had
Yeah.
just brought that to the fore, really, and total burnout and total collapse. So, um, lockdown was my saving grace. It really was. I know it was very difficult for a lot of businesses, but it really was because I knew because of my mental health state, going back into education wasn't tenable at that point.
Yep.
You've got to be on your A game to be at that
Yes.
level.
Yep.
And so I had to have a rethink. And the only other thing that I knew how to do, fortunately, was build websites.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So that's what I did. And I set myself daily goals. Every day it was a goal. Today I'm going to cook a meal. Today I'm going to post something on Facebook telling people that I'm looking for people that want websites. And then gradually it was right, today I'm going to build a website. So actually, the creation of Arctic Bee was my therapy to pull
Right.
myself out of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's where the name Arctic Bee comes from, because it's the Arctic bee is a bee that lives in very cold climates,
Okay.
and practically it hibernates to the point that you'd think it's dead, and then it magically comes back to life in warm weather. So it seemed like a real symbol of that resilience and surviving and
Yeah.
thriving. And yeah, and in May 2021, I incorporated Arctic Bee, and Arctic Bee Limited was born.
Well done. Wonderful.
Yeah,
And you've grown, obviously grown since then.
yeah.
And I mean, obviously, that must have been a very challenging time. But since the founding of Arctic Bee, what are some of the challenges you've had to overcome as you've grown?
Um, well, initially it was just me, obviously, and at the point of incorporation, it was just me.
Yep.
Um, Again, I'll go back to lockdown being quite fortunate for me, and I do recognise it wasn't for a lot of businesses, but it was the ideal time really to go into, that industry.
Yep.
And I had a friend in London whose son was doing an apprenticeship in social media. And she said to me, social media marketing, she said to me, he's looking for some extra work. Would you be interested if he came and did some work for you? So the web design expanded into social media. And then I had the opportunity to take two young people on during the Kickstart scheme, which I did. So Arctic Bee suddenly became a team.
Brilliant.
Uh, and from there, we've grown the team and brought in different expertise. I've got a couple of young people that are working with me that have come straight from university, one from the University of Leeds that I'm very fortunate to have, and one from the University of Bath, who have just brought some amazing skills into the business. So now the team just spans quite a range, and you can tell I'm more of a mature person. So having a younger team makes a huge difference in terms of the dynamics, in terms of
Yeah,
making sure that we're catering, obviously, for a younger audience as far as social media is concerned, and a more mature audience. We kind of span a range, and yeah, it's kind of coming together and moving forward. And I'm really proud, actually. It's not so much a journey that I've been on because obviously I reflect on it and I think I have come a long way, but I'm really proud of my team.
brilliant.
So proud of them because they're young and they've really stepped into working for a small business and actually being instrumental in helping me grow it and push it forward and making sure that we're getting results for our clients. So they're just such an amazing bunch of young people, and I couldn't ask for more, really.
Brilliant. What great, yeah, what a great advert for recruiting young people into businesses in general and giving them that opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, and looking back over the growth of the business, what are some of the biggest learnings you've got about growing a business?
Um, well, I'll go back to the beginning actually. There's a couple of practical points in that I wish I had gone limited from the beginning because
Right.
actually going from a sole trader to limited was very painful.
Yes.
It's not as easy as you think when you've got to
Yes.
sort bank accounts out and change invoicing and go back to your customers and get them to change everything. Same with VAT. Actually, we're now VAT registered, and I wish that I'd done that sooner.
Yep.
That would have been a lot simpler to have got those processes in place from the beginning. Um, when I started out, I think this is something, and I've spoken to a lot of other digital marketing agency owners who are further on than Arctic Bee, and I did that in the early days as well. Um, I'm a real believer in not seeing people that do the same or similar as you as competition, but more, I'm really into collaboration.
Great.
So I did speak to a lot of digital marketing agencies and some of those in Leeds as well about how they'd got where they were. And what I realised was that I was where they were at the beginning, where I wasn't valuing what we were doing, I wasn't charging enough. Um, I mean, I was practically working for less than minimum wage at one point.
Right. Yep.
Um, and I think that was a hard lesson as well, to realise that actually you don't have to feel guilty about charging what you're worth.
No. No.
It's
Uh,
not that we're extortionate, we
no,
do want to support
absolutely.
small businesses, but actually charging what we're worth, because what we found was that the people that were paying very little actually didn't really value what we did.
100%.
And the retention was actually higher amongst the higher paying clients that valued it.
Yep.
And also we can and same now, we get better results because we do Google paid ads as well. And the clients that are prepared to invest actually get the best results.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So so that was one thing. I think the other thing is that it hasn't been a straight linear line, it's a business, isn't it? It goes up and
Yep.
down, and you kind of feel like sometimes you've taken 4 steps forward and 3 steps back.
Yep.
So it's kind of and I suppose this goes back to my journey as well, from pulling myself out of that depression and my own personal journey and applying that to my business, is understanding that if you lose a client or you have a bad day or things aren't quite going to plan, is not to let it bring you down
No.
to the point that you can't, you've got to look at it in the overall context. A bad day is a bad day. Are
Yep.
you moving in the right direction in terms of your entire financial year? Are you moving in the right direction in terms of where you want to be in 3 to 5 years' time? That's what matters.
Yep. Bang
And
on.
for every client you lose, it's an opportunity to get somebody else on board that's more aligned with what you do.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
I think it's Tony Robbins has got a great quote, and he's when he says, if this issue won't matter in 5 years' time, then it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that makes sense. Will we remember that we had a bad day today in 5 years' time? Well, no.
Yeah,
Probably not.
absolutely.
Um,
I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins as well, by the way. I've
Brilliant,
done UPW with Tony Robbins. So
brilliant.
yeah, big fan.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, no, he's got, yeah, yeah, wonderful bloke. And but yeah, it's that having that mindset, isn't it? And I find I obviously interview quite a lot of people. I think the we talk about resilience a lot. I think
Mm.
one of the key facets of a successful business person, it has to be resilience, because as you said, it's not a straight line. If it's a straight line, everyone would do it. But it's up and down. It's being able to deal with the downs, isn't it? And enjoy the ups.
It is, and I think it's about good teamwork as well. You know,
Yep.
when you're leading a team, it's your communication with the team is important. So,
Yes.
you know, if we do lose a client, we do sit down and we will reflect on it and we'll look at, we'll look at what's happened. And I don't want it to sound like we lose those clients because we don't. We have really good client retention. But if something doesn't quite go to plan, then we do sit down and we do look at it. And
Yep.
what we also do on a weekly basis as a team is actually go through every single client that we've got and look at what we're doing and then look at what we could do better. So we're
Brilliant.
continually striving as a team to improve. And I think that's really important for the team, actually, especially when you're employing young people, to develop that sense of self-reflection
Yeah.
and the ability to take accountability for your own work. So,
Yes.
so that is really, really important. And that resilience is important as well, because if I crash, they crash.
Yeah.
So we do work very closely together as a team. I suppose we're fairly democratic in that respect as well. Got quite a democratic style of
Brilliant.
leadership, if you like,
Yeah.
in that they're very involved in obviously the overall decisions are mine, but they're very involved in that decision making process
Great.
and working towards the overall direction of the business and where we want to take it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. Again, that's a real facet of successful leadership for me. Is we do. It's not about telling people what to do. It's about engaging and finding. Ultimately, we have to make the decision, but it's engaging with different ideas and being open to challenge too. I think is quite important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. So I'm keen to know who are the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Oh, you mentioned Tony Robbins. Obviously,
Yes.
I've been to UPW.
Yep.
Um, that he's been quite instrumental. Um, in terms of coaching, I mean, I actually do some coaching myself. Don't know if you know, but I do some voluntary work with SmartWorks, which is good to
Brilliant.
get me out of the office one day a month and actually take a break from the computer.
Brilliant.
But yeah, but I have had coaches through the years. I've worked with a lady called Jane Baylor. I don't know if you know her, but she was really good. And a colleague of mine, Liz Dunphy, she's also been really good. And I think coaching is really important because it's more about it's empowerment, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
somebody steering you, but you're still overall in charge of that direction and what you want to
100%.
do and where you want to go. So it's just really a structured facilitating tool to
Yes.
get you to where you need to be. And that's what I try and do with my staff as well, is actually coach
Brilliant.
them rather than, you know,
Yeah.
I've never been a micromanager.
No, coaching gets so much more out of people because it is helping people find their way forward. That's what it
Yeah.
is. And as you said, facilitation and enabling and an empowerment. And then I guess the other the other side of it, or the other part of it for me, is holding people accountable to do the things they said they needed to do to get where they wanted to go. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's pretty difficult to hold ourselves accountable. Let's be perfectly frank. Certainly I struggle with it. So I've got my own coach because it's like I know how to coach, but I need somebody else that can hold me accountable to do those things.
Yeah, I will say as well, I had a business mentor for a couple of years. She moved away, but she was working with me and she came to me through Lean In, which is a women's
Brilliant.
network. You might be familiar with it.
Yes.
And that mentoring was really good as well.
Great.
It was just a sounding board really more than anything, but to
Yep.
actually meet for coffee regularly. And I'd encourage any business owner to do that, to get a coach or get a mentor or get somebody that you can have as a sounding board, because actually I've spoken about being fairly democratic in terms of leadership style, but the buck does stop with you.
Yep.
And sometimes you need somebody external to your organization or to your company to actually just listen to you and for you to bounce your ideas back to
Yep.
yourself. and for you to be able to make effective decisions. So, coaching and mentoring is really powerful and really important. And
Brilliant.
leadership can be quite lonely sometimes as
Yeah,
well, especially if you don't have a partner that you're working with.
yeah,
So it can be quite lonely, and just feeling that you've got someone that's got your back as well
yes.
and make all the difference.
It really does. As I say, I have been coaching for 20 years now. This is and I still have my own coach because I still have the same human challenges that we all have. Just because I know what coaching is doesn't mean I can do it to myself or for myself. And as you said, it's lonely, and it's just being able to offload sometimes. And um, it. I love the phrase I sort of describe. We often describe ourselves as your unreasonable friend in business, which I think is quite a nice way of looking at it. It's someone that will challenge too, just challenge those ideas and beliefs if it's helpful.
Yeah, it is, and something else I would say, and when I was working in prisons, when I first started working in prisons and secure training centres, I actually had a coaching training so that I could coach my staff.
Brilliant,
And as I say, I do voluntary coaching once a
brilliant.
month, and I think that's a really good skill to develop
Yeah,
as a business leader, as somebody who has staff or a team,
yes,
because it gives you that ability. Coaching is quite a skill. It's very easy to cross over into telling somebody what you
absolutely.
think they should do. But actually, coaching is a real skill. And I think, especially when you're developing young people, you don't want to stifle their ideas.
Yeah,
You want them to come forward with their creativity. So I'd encourage anybody who's running a business to actually think about, I don't know, doing a short course or something, and actually getting involved in delivering some coaching too, because it's
completely
invaluable.
agree. Completely
Yeah.
agree. It's yeah, I love being a coach because it is so different to, as you say. I think a consultant tells people, and quite often valuably, we actually get a consultant to tell us what to do because we're drawing from their knowledge and experience, and it's the absolutely right thing to do. But coaching is
Mm.
very much about helping people find their right way forward, which just is so much more comfortable, isn't it? When you're going in the direction that you want to go, and just being helped, maybe just challenged when we're going a little bit off beam or whatever. It's so valuable. So, well, from any of the people you mentioned, or any other source, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business or success or resilience?
Oh my gosh, you put me on the spot now.
Don't
Um,
worry if you don't, it's not a problem.
Probably, I don't know about a quote, but I would refer back to Tony Robbins.
Yep,
And there are loads of quotes from Tony Robbins. I would suggest looking into some of the works of Tony Robbins.
yeah,
Some of the videos that he's put together,
yeah,
because actually they're quite empowering. Even looking at the six human needs, it's quite good about understanding human behaviour and so on.
yes,
So, and I've read quite a few of his books. So yeah, so I find anything by Tony Robbins really inspiring and quite helpful.
brilliant,
Um, yeah.
great. And speaking of learning, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Tracy?
Um, I'm still learning.
Brilliant.
You never stop learning.
No,
So yeah, so I'm still learning about myself every day, and I think the since my breakdown, and I've had a relationship since. I haven't really gone into that, but I did have a relationship that ended last year. It was particularly difficult, and coming through that, I've learned more about my own resilience, and I've learned more about um, I guess I've developed more belief in myself and more confidence in myself to do it
great,
and push forward. And I feel that I'm 54. Okay, so I turned 54 not that long ago, um, in August. And it's so I grew up in a time and a generation. So I was at school in the 70s and 80s where, even though the 80s were a time of women starting to break through the glass ceiling, there was still this kind of expectation that you would get married, have children, and be a
mm,
housewife. Right? Let's be honest about it. A lot of
yep,
women were at that time. And so I've always kind of bucked against that. I've never done things normally. I had my children, then I went to university, and I got my master's degree. Actually, I finished my master's degree in digital marketing last year.
Brilliant.
So I've never done things the way they should be done in the order that they should be done. Okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I've always kind of bucked in. And I kind of grew up with that feeling that as a woman, I felt like I had so much to prove
Yeah.
because the expectations set upon me by my I love my parents. They're no longer around, but I love them to bits. But their expectations of me were that kind of limiting.
Yes.
I would find a nice man, I'd settle down, I'd have children. And they weren't best pleased when I went to university. They didn't think it was the right thing to do when I had children. But they were still very proud of me when I graduated. So I suppose I grew up with that, and there's a sense of having that in the back of your mind, I think, as a female in my career as well, my kind of educational career, there's always that kind of sense of imposter syndrome. I know we all have it to some extent, but I think being a woman that grew up in those times, it's kind of amplified in a way, in that you
Yeah.
kind of always feel like I shouldn't really be here, if
I,
that makes sense.
it makes
And
perfect sense.
yeah,
More than half the people I speak to talk about imposter syndrome. It is
yeah,
quite a very common thing.
yeah,
Um, there's
yeah.
there is a great quote. If it helps, there's a great quote from that I like anyway from Stephen Bartlett, the star of a CEO guy, and he said he loves imposter syndrome because he means he's in the right room and he's going to learn something.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Fantastic quote that. Thank you for that one.
It's cool,
Yeah,
isn't it? And it's right. It's
yeah,
like I'm going to learn
yeah,
something. It's like, but yeah, but
yeah.
the crazy thing is, we're in a room with feeling imposter syndrome, and probably half the people in the room are feeling it too. And it's sort of,
And that is the thing. People do feel it, but I kind of feel like being a woman that grew up with that kind of expectation.
yeah,
As I say, I think that's probably even more so
yeah,
because I literally grew up being told you're not expected to go to work. You're not expected to be a manager or be a leader or run a business or do any of these things. You need to find a husband that will provide for you.
yeah,
So I kind of grew up with that mindset, and I grew up in a time where there wasn't that kind of expectation. And you really started to see people push through it, I suppose, in the 90s and more in the 2000s. And women did start to take those top jobs. And so now I am really starting to come into my own and feel the confidence that I really can do it. And it's taken me
brilliant.
to my 50s to get to that point where I feel that I can actually do this without needing a partner or a personal partner or business partner actually to prop me up and support me, that actually I can do this on my
Brilliant.
own. And I think that's a real it's empowering, and I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about Arctic Bee.
Brilliant.
I'm excited about where it's going. And it's just a shame that I didn't get there sooner.
Yes. Yeah, uh, no, I really get that, and it's great, and yeah, a wonderful set of learning, and we have a definition in Action Coach itself, our business coaching organization, that a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owner. Now, I will say can, so I'm not suggesting that you have to quit, but how do you feel about that as a definition of a business? Is that what are your thoughts?
I agree with that actually, but it's about systems and processes. And
There you
I
go.
have found in the last year, not before, but in the last year, and Arctic Bee was incorporated in 21. So we're talking, well, 5 years on since I started and 4 years since it was incorporated. It's been the last year that I've actually been able to step away a little bit and give
Brilliant.
my team more. So if I'm not in the office for a couple of days, I know that they can steer the ship and they can deal
Yep.
with inquiries when they come in, and they can have client meetings. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that, and it's all about the systems and processes that you put in place.
Brilliant.
um yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Wonderful.
100%. And so a little bit of information. I'm went to see somebody yesterday. I'm actually looking into taking a psychotherapy course at the moment
Right.
because of my
Brilliant.
domestic violence background, domestic
Yes.
abuse.
Yep.
I have a website called itsfinished.com
Right.
and a TikTok channel. My website was on Radio 2's website of the day back in the day when Steve Wright was around.
Brilliant.
And it supported a lot of people over the years going through divorce and breakups and domestic abuse. And it's always been a bit of an interest, bit of a personal interest. It's never really been like a serious business or anything. But I really have started to think about stepping back from the business a little bit and giving the team more responsibility, more
Great.
empowerment, taking more days away, taking this course, and then eventually supporting other women that have gone through domestic abuse because there's a real passion there for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be another thing to look forward to for the future.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, and speaking of the future, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Um, well, obviously, the economy is always a big concern for everybody. I know that people are feeling the pinch right now.
Yep.
Politically, we don't know where things are going to go. It's actually, well, I mentioned my age. I mean, to have gone through such a technical revolution and seen the changes I've seen in my lifetime are incredible. But now we're faced with AI,
Yep.
which brings its own set of challenges.
Yep.
And we're seeing more and more that people are using it for copywriting, they're using it for developing basic, producing basic code.
Yep.
They're using it to create logos and graphic design and so on. So it'd be interesting to see how that develops over the coming years.
Yep.
And I think that the thing for any business is to remain agile and
Yep.
make sure that they're consistently moving
Yes.
with the marketplace and with technology. And so it's a difficult one to see exactly how things are going to pan out,
Yep.
but we just need to remain agile and responsive and adapt.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Um, yeah, and how that looks in 3 to 5 years' time is very difficult to say.
Yeah. Completely
Yeah,
get that. Agree. Yeah. It's
yeah,
things are going so fast, aren't they, that we just don't know, and
yeah.
the timescales with which things are changing are just reducing and reducing over time.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, again, having such a young team is actually a real advantage.
Yeah.
And, I do know that I want to move and I want to expand the team. I want to
Yep.
carry on supporting young people and helping them out at the start of their career. And that gives exciting opportunities as well to actually look at AI and potentially look into how we can integrate that further into the business. I mean, we do use it regularly now for automation, for example, and in Google Ads and reporting and so on. But yeah, I would like to expand the team. I would like to continue growing. Do have plans to do that. But for me personally, actually looking at the psychotherapy side of things as well, I'd like to develop itsfinished.com more alongside that because
Brilliant.
because of my experiences, I kind of feel that I have that distance from it now,
Yep.
then I'm in a really good place where I can support other
Great.
people. So that's a personal ambition of mine. And
Brilliant.
yeah, I'd certainly like to see Arctic be growing alongside that,
Yeah.
growing as an entity as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now, Tracy.
I would say go for it. Um, there's no right time or wrong
Yep.
time to start a business. It depends on what the business is, and it depends on your mindset really and how agile you can be.
Yep.
So absolutely go for it. And we know that even in times of economic uncertainty, there are certain businesses that thrive, and there are certain businesses that don't do so well. So just make sure that whatever you're doing, there is a marketplace for it. Do your research. I would recommend that people do a business model canvas
Yep. Brilliant.
if they're gonna set a business up. Don't create a business plan that's too rigid.
Yeah.
You need much more of an agile model really to
Yep.
adapt. Have a look at where the marketplace is and just go for it. And you know what it's like. As much advice as we could give somebody, sometimes it's like having a baby. I mentioned I've got 4 children. It's like having a baby. When somebody says to you, "What advice would you give me?" In some respects, you've got to find your own way.
Yeah.
You've got to find what works for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but saying that, and this goes back to my period of depression as well, when I started out and I started posting on Facebook asking for people if they knew anyone that needed a website, etc., is don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah,
Like, pull it out there to anybody and everybody and ask for help. That doesn't mean that you need 20 different people giving you conflicting advice, but it means that when you need support, so for example, if you're struggling with doing your bookkeeping or you're not quite sure how to use this particular piece of technology, there will be somebody out there that does know. So don't be afraid
yeah,
to ask for help, because there are so many people out there that will support you. And I asked digital marketing agencies, so don't be afraid to ask people who are already where you want to be,
yep,
because most good business owners will support you, even if they consider that, you're in a you're setting something up that's competitive. That's
yeah,
not going to be a threat to somebody who is, an established business owner that knows where they're going. They will be there to
yeah.
support you.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you sort of there's a group of marketing digital marketing businesses in Leeds, and I'm aware that there's quite a lot. There's a really great sort of community built with people sharing and helping each other on a regular basis, which I think is wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
and
I'll give a shout out to Shoe, actually, because honestly, their team where I met them at a couple of networking events, and they gave me such amazing advice when
brilliant,
I started out. I mean, they were wonderful, and I see the guys about sometimes when I'm networking, and yeah, they were just amazing in making me, in kind of explaining to me how they'd started out and how they'd got to where they were right now. And
brilliant.
just amazing. And there are so many good digital marketing agencies out there. And the other thing is, of course, we all have our different niches, so there's no reason why we can't, can't work
100,
together.
100%. I mean, I've honestly never ever. I've worked with many businesses over time, but I've never met two businesses that absolutely overlap completely.
Yeah,
There's often a fair bit, but anything that's not overlapping is an opportunity to collaborate. So
yeah,
even someone that appears to be direct competitor probably isn't. But as
yeah,
you said, once we get into niches and things, that's a different area too. And
yeah.
if you started your business again, Tracy, is there anything significant that you do differently, do you think?
Probably everything.
Incorporation, of course, that was one of the things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I would have set out my processes at the very beginning.
Yeah,
I kind of cobbled it together and just went into the doing. And
yeah,
that's not necessarily a bad way to do things, because sometimes you can spend so long sorting processes out that you never actually get it off the ground.
correct. Bang on.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes you do have to kind of jump in with both feet. But I do wish that I had spent a little bit of time when when I was first starting out. Obviously, you have fewer clients, so you have more time on your hands.
Yes,
I do wish that I'd really focused on putting more processes and procedures in point at that point in
yes,
time. And yeah, because it's difficult sometimes to it's very easy as a small business owner to find yourself working in the business rather than working on it.
yep,
That's the struggle that we all have at some point.
absolutely.
And again, that comes down to getting those processes right in the beginning, because as you say, if the processes are there, you can step away from the business and you
Yep,
can afford that time to actually work on it, which is really important. That business development piece is so important. That's where coaching comes in.
yep,
So yeah, so get your processes right in the beginning and afford yourself the not the luxury, but the importance of taking time out to work on your
yeah.
business rather than just in it.
No, brilliant. Yeah, great advice. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
Um, I'd say don't worry about the fact that you failed all your exams. You'd be running a school one day.
Yeah,
I wasn't very good at school, actually.
interesting.
I was a bit of a failure.
Interesting.
I left school and had children very young, and I really didn't have any direction. I didn't know where I wanted to go. What I would say is that I feel like young people now put themselves under so much pressure. And having worked in education, it's a very exam-driven culture. It's this kind of
Yes.
feeling that if you don't pass your exams, if you don't get the right grades in English and maths, somehow you're a failure.
Yeah.
And what I would say is the educational system, I mean, it's broken to me because when I was at school and certainly in my early years of teaching, you could leave at a certain age and go off and you could do YTS or you could do an apprenticeship where you're training on the job and so on. And now there's this real kind of more of an emphasis on academic work, and not all young people are academic.
No.
So I
Agree.
would say take the pressure off yourself. And I will tell you just one small thing. When I started teaching, I was teaching English. And I had a young lad who was in sixth form, and he had not passed any of his GCSEs, and he felt like a failure. And
Mm.
I remember he was forced to do functional skills because if you didn't pass your GCSEs, you had to do functional skills. And the real push was to get young people to pass a level two in functional skills, English and maths. Now, he was severely dyslexic. In
Right.
fact, if anybody I've ever taught, he was probably the most dyslexic young person I'd ever met.
Right. Yeah.
I met him years later at a business networking meeting, and he was earning more money than I was.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And I think that sums it up.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself under pressure
No.
because there's something out there for you. And if academia is not your route, there will be
Yeah.
something else that you can excel at.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one route for one, for one thing, and I think, I agree in many ways. I think I'm not sure the education system is fit for purpose for, especially for the new world,
Mm,
especially with the availability of both information and intelligence right at our fingertips. It's sort of, I think it does need a bit of a reboot and a rethink. Um,
yeah, definitely.
Tracy, it's been fascinating to talk to you, and congratulations on all you've achieved and the things you've had to overcome. It's been really, really fascinating and inspiring. And for anyone that's interested in getting in touch with you or Arctic Bee, what would be the best way of doing that?
If you Google Arctic Bee, we do come up. You can find our website. On our website, you'll find our social media links. So by all means, connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to look me up on LinkedIn. You can DM me by LinkedIn. The telephone number is also on the website. I'm more than happy for people to WhatsApp me. But I would say if you Google Arctic Bee, then we'll come up and you'll be able to find everything that you need to find on the website.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by another 6 to 12 months to just see the next development with the business, with the psychotherapy courses and things. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank
Brilliant.
you.